Hey everybody, it's me again. I'm just making another video on layers to go over some more features that it has I didn't get the chance to go over in the last video. I wanted to make that one short, so hopefully I can keep this one short as well. So I'm going to kind of pick up where I left off last time, which was going over the different options by right-clicking on the layer itself. I think we went over the layer color here, so if you change it to the purple, that layer is purple. So there's other stuff, other options here. One of those are the layer style. So if you have something that you want to kind of spruce up a little bit, this is kind of how you would do it. It would affect the entire layer. It's not going to limit anything unless you have a mask on it or something else like that. So let's kind of get started on that. So then I'm going to right click on that layer and go back to layer style. So first I'm going to start with a drop shadow. It's going to give you some settings here. Right now it is not active because we haven't checked off this box. Before I do that, I want to make sure that my preview is selected. That way any changes I make in this layer styles box will be affected here on my canvas, but it won't be official until I hit OK. So I'm just going to turn that on. Alright, so there are a couple things that happened. So you can see that there's a nice shadow under each shape I made with my colors. And then if you look on your layer, there's a little icon that appeared as well, FX. So the F and the X is just shorthand for actual effects. So if you go back to, if you go back to the drop shadow box, and change the angle of the light, we'll say it's coming from the left side, or the shadow is going to be up here. You can see that it changes the direction of the shadow. So the light is coming down from the bottom right, sort of, and it's making a nice shadow behind it. Now we can make this darker by changing the opacity, so there's not going to be a nice, like, semi-transparent shadow. If we bring it down all the way to like 16, you can see that it's not as dark, it's not as heavy, so almost like a nice soft light is hitting it versus a harsh shadow. I think 100%. I was going to take that back there, take it down to 50. The distance, so I can make this go much farther. So that's, there you go. So now it kind of gives it more of a 3D look. It has like space between the blue background and the shape that I made, so it looks like there's distance between the foreground and the background, which is pretty cool. So if I just bring that down again, now it's a pretty tight shadow. It looks like it's almost up against that blue background. You can increase the size. Probably shouldn't have made it that big, but that'll be fine. So the shadow is much bigger, but because it is bigger, it's being kind of stretched out, so it has a softer look to it, and it's even coming out a little bit on the bottom here. So I'm going to bring that back down. Now the spread. You can see that it's not as a soft edge anymore, it's kind of moving farther out. The more consistent opaque look. Move that up to 100%. And now it's much sharper. So it's kind of got like a nice fake vector look to it almost, which is kind of cool. I'm going to just bring that back down to 0. So obviously the contour is not implemented yet. You could add more noise to it though. I'm going to zoom in here. Let me just increase the spread and the size so you can see it better. There we go. So you can kind of see it looks almost pixely. When you add noise to anything, it's going to have that odd look to it. When you're adding noise, it's almost like film grain. It's just extra stuff that appears in your video or your image, like to give it some trying to think of an example, like the old black and white photos, how they look a little noisy sometimes. It's just artifacting and stuff in there that looks like noise. So I'm just gonna take that back down to 0. Alright, so drop shadow's done. So we'll turn that off. We'll go back to the inner shadow. So it's the same thing as the drop shadow, except it's only applying to what's on the canvas. So these colors here. Actually looks pretty cool in that green. Looks like slime. So the same thing here. Change the angle of the shadow, where that light's gonna come from, which is really cool. You can change the distance again. You can see that it's much heavier. Turn that back. Good. Turn this up a little bit. There we go. Made that a little bigger. There we go. And you can ignore this black bar here. It's just because it's slow and it's processing it. Alright, the choke. It's going to make a sharper edge here, so let's bring it up some more. There we go. And then the sides, same thing. It's going to change the size of the shadow, you know, how big it's going to be on your object there, which kind of has a neat effect. I don't really use any of this. I mean, you can use it as a base to start off your shading if you wanted to. You can change the color in the blend mode as well, but for the shadows, I would leave it at multiply, because doing anything else, it kind of defeats the purpose of the shadow. Alright, so we're going to do outer glow. So it does exactly as it says. There's a little bit of a glow on the outside here. Now you can actually switch between a solid color and a gradient. So I want to try the red and the black. And let's see if we can notice that here. Forgot to select it. Come on. You can kind of tell there's a little bit more red here. Let's just do the red and the orange. There we go. See that much better. So which is kind of cool. You can make your own custom gradient and apply that to the glow for whatever reason. So you got your white and yellow and orange on the outer rim, and then as you get closer to the stroke or shape you have, it's going to turn more red. So let's see, you can probably increase the spread and see if that brings in more red. Yep. That's kind of neat. Let's play with the jitter. Kind of looks like it's adding some noise on the outer edge, which is neat. Turn that off. And I'm going to turn this down. And we'll change the technique to precise. Just kind of sharpens up the edge a little bit. I'm going to go back to softer. A little bit softer. Alright, so we're done with that. At inner glow, same thing. I'm just going to do it on the inside of the shape we've made. So we can do that here as well. We will use the orange and the red, do the gradient. As you can see, we're going to kind of make that bigger. There we go. So that'd be kind of cool to mess with as well. And same thing, all the chokes the same. The source, we can do the center. So it's coming out from the middle of your shape versus the outer edge, which is kind of neat. And then same as everything else. And again, you can change your blend mode, but it would kind of defeat the purpose of your option here. Excuse me. Alright, so the bevel and emboss is pretty cool. I do like this one. It looks like, I don't know how like engraved stuff is. It has that nice look to it. So that would be your bevel here. It's a nice sharp edge. So it looks like this is flat on top and then it tapers out on the bottom. Kind of gives that neat look to it. And again, you can change the angle of the light and shadow. There is no glass? Okay. Thought that worked. Alright, so we can change the direction of the bevel. Looks, you know, like just changing direction of the light. Ooh, let's do the chisel hard. Just kind of refining things. So you just have different options for the style of the bevel. So we can do let's try the emboss. That has a, it looks like it's embossing it in the blue background. Like when you have to go to, oh, what's it called? Get something certified or whatever, and you have to emboss your papers. A notary. You have to get something notarized, and they punch that paper. It kind of looks like almost like this. It's making a hole in the paper, but some of it's raised. Kind of like that. Let's try a pillow, which looks a little nice, a little bit cleaner. Kind of like that better. And your stroke doesn't do anything. I don't think I have the right settings to make that work. Inner bevel, outer. I like this one. It looks like it's embedded into the blue background. Just super neat. Alright, so yeah, that's your highlight mode, shadow mode. Just add it for shits and giggles. Let's mess with the colors. We'll do your green. So you got a little bit of a greenish tint on the shadow now, which actually looks much better. So let's go a little darker. Ooh, that looks really nice. It blends in perfectly. Let's play with the bright colors. Let's try and do blue. You know what? Let's do a yellow. I'm curious what that looks like. Do pastel yellow. I can't tell too much of a difference. Make it more yellow. There you go. Gotta change the color of that a little bit too. A little bit of a difference. So if you want to mess with more color and make more natural shadows with natural color versus just making it black, you can do that with everything too. It's not just the bevel and emboss. So it's dark green. It's fine. Okay. So done with that. So contour. Doesn't do anything because it's not implemented yet. Texture, you're supposed to be able to change the texture of everything. Like most of textures, I can't. I don't use them. They don't work properly for me because I don't use them. So, and then satin looks really pretty. It's like a satin ribbon, so it has a nice little edge here. So let's increase that size. We can see it better. A little bit of a softer look. So it's kind of giving you that ribbon look where it's shiny in the middle in a way when you bend it. You have your color overlay. Oops, there we go. Let's change that color to pink. There we go. So it doesn't look too flattering, but it's a layer mode. So instead of making a new layer and then changing it to an overlay, and filling the color, and doing the alpha inheritance, all that crazy stuff, you can just add an actual effect to that layer. Kind of saves you time and headaches Because then if you want to turn it off, oh, you just go back in here and turn it off. The nice thing is it's going to save the color you picked last. Alright, gradient overlay. Same thing. It's just a gradient. So let's do the orange and red. Orange on top, and then, you know, it's changing the color. It's just the colors I picked. You can't. It's just overlaying it, so it's not doing a complete solid gradient. It's just kind of overlaying the colors. Then pattern overlay. This does work. I like it. You can just change pattern of it, which is pretty cool. Like some of those cartoons, they just have patterns over the color. You can do that. Which is cool. Ooh, that looks kind of neat. Like tin foil almost. Ooh. Alright, and then the stroke. This kind of outlines it, which actually might be helpful if you're doing, you know, your artwork and you have your line work, but you want to have it like a more, I guess, cartoony, comic-y type look. You can over exaggerate that. You can just add stroke to your line work and then make it really obnoxiously large. Or you can even duplicate it and use it as an outline to make that character stand out. You know, there's a lot of things you can do with it. So we're just going to cancel that. I don't want any of that. So that was the layer styles. If you right click and go to properties, you can kind of get an overview of what is going on with your layer. These here, same buttons, the visible, the eye icon to see if it's on and off, your lock, your alpha inheritance, and your transparency. That's also here, so you can either lock it from here or over here. Now your active channels, if you take away the blue, it's taking any blue that would be part of making this color, it's taking it away. Add it back in, it's bringing that reddish color back in. Take out the green, everything has green in it, so away it goes. The red, same thing, these two had red in it. I took it out and the colors have changed. And these are just how your values are being, your colors are being made. You always have the blue, the green, and the red. That's just how the colors are being mixed. And if I take alpha away, well, you can't really see. But if you were using the alpha inheritance, it would actually, it's connected to that. By turning it on, you are saying that there is empty space you can draw on. By taking this off, you're saying there is no empty space for it to draw on. So just like last time when, make it layer, group, talked about the alpha inheritance. If I'm coloring, I'm only going to be able to color on that that fake mask that I've made. Now if I go to the layer properties here and I turn the alpha back on, I'm able to see all of this empty space that's technically here again, and I can see the full stroke that I made and not just what the alpha is based on what the layer underneath it. So all this empty space around the blue, around these dots, would be the alpha. So, alright. So I want to go over quick the menu for layer as well. You can cut, copy, and paste your layers just like hitting Control C and Control V, or coming down here and right clicking and doing the cut, copy, paste. You can also make a new layer from visible, duplicate the layer, mask, or the normal paint layer. You can import layers. So let's see what I have here. Krita. Let's see. Date modified. Oh, let's import that, sure. So, the pumpkin faces from forever ago. Resize that here. So now that is its own layer. That way I don't have to like copy and paste into here. I can just import it as a new layer and start going to town on it. So, oops. Gotta hit the brush icon. I can start erasing it, and it's just a normal layer. You can transform the layers. You can either hit Control T, which will bring up your transform, or you can just go here. Now, the really nice thing I like about Krita too is I can just mirror that single layer. So if I didn't like the pumpkins facing the direction they're doing, or they're facing right now, I can just say mirror layer horizontally. And it flips just that layer, but retains the orientation of the other layers just fine, which is really nice, because sometimes you don't want to mirror the whole image. You just want to mirror that layer you're on. And you can also do vertically. I don't know if I did that. Did I click it? Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. There we go. That was mirrored vertically. And then we can go to, you can rotate it, you can shear it and offset it. So shearing, it's just, it's a shear. You're kind of stretching it at an angle. You can scale that layer to a new size. So this is my the size of the layer right now. So let's say I want to just do 800 by whatever it is. So now it's that size exactly, but I'm not messing with the size of my canvas. And then we went over that. You can also export. Can you? Yeah, you can save your layer as a. Let's see. We'll save it as a Krita document. Krita. Where did my folder go? Let's put it in here. Alright, so you can save it as a PNG, TGA, all this crazy stuff, whatever you need. So I'll just save it as a Krita file. So layer export. Then we'll go to open it. Oh, right in front of my face. And it's just that layer I saved out, which is pretty cool. So if you want to work on a part of an image you have, but you don't want to go through the trouble of deleting old layers or saving out files, just save out that layer you've got. It's pretty cool. Import layer, you can save the group of the layers. You can convert just like you can do in the right click here. Convert. You can split the layer and everything. You can merge and flatten layers and all that layer style as well. So all that is here as well. It's just whatever you prefer to use. And I think that's about it for layers. I think it's a pretty good, rundown on the basics. A lot of it just using the tools and what's there to your advantage. I mean, everyone's workflow is going to be different, and everyone's going to be able to use the layer features and all that crazy stuff to their own, preference. Some people like the layer styles, some people don't bother using them. I personally don't see a need for them at the moment for my own work, but that doesn't mean you can't find a use for them, because there are some cool effects. Even if you're just playing with it, it's just fun. It's good to have fun with it. I don't know if that's going to be affected in the new version of Krita, but for now, play with it. It wouldn't hurt. Alright, so I hope that was helpful to you guys, and I hope that you learned something from it. If you have any questions, definitely ask me. I hope this video isn't too long. I have not been watching the time. I don't think it is. If it is, I apologize. If it's not, awesome. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe. Apparently there's a notification bell that I didn't even notice. If you are subscribed to me, or you want to be subscribed, you hit the notification bell. You will make sure that you're actually getting alerts from YouTube that a new video is out. And hopefully that works, instead of just being subscribed and having your subscription feed totally messed up. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.